we wish them speedy recovery. Also, we include amongst those South Africans our colleague, Minister Gwede Mantashe, and his wife, Usisno Lwandle. We wish all of them speedy recovery. Having said that, we now request General Begicele to come and speak to us. General.
Do I take this one off? Yeah. Am I not going to be arrested? Thank you very much, Program Director, Honorable Minister Mthembu, ministers from the JCPS, the Minister of Justice and Correctional Service, Minister of State Security, Sis Madlojo, and Dr. Msoleti from Home Affairs. I think those are the ministers that are here. The Deputy Minister Makwetla from Defense, and all colleagues, good morning. A good day, Sanbonani Dumelang, people of South Africa and members of the media. The JCPS cluster is deeply concerned by the rising number of COVID-19 infections. We all know of someone who tested positive, or we have a family member who has been infected. We have all seen the devastation that COVID-19 has brought on lives, health, jobs, and business. This pandemic is indiscriminate. No one is immune. It even attacks those entrusted with protecting us. Number of JCPS cluster officials have tested positive. The good news is that many of them have fully recovered and are back in the front line serving the communities. Their recovery has been largely due to them scrupulously doing what their medical care workers told them to do. The South African National Defence Force has deployed over 60 military health workers from various medical disciplines to augment health response in the Eastern Cape province. It is the same for all of us South Africans. If we are responsible, if we do respect one another, if we work with those serving us during this pandemic, we will overcome it. And we will break its transmission. As the President has told us, the answer is in our hands. We also want to send our sincerest condolences to the families, friends, and colleagues of Judge Patrick Judge, who at the time of his passing diligently served on the bench of the Eastern Cape Division of the High Court. We also send our heartfelt condolences to the family, friends, and colleagues of two of our permanent magistrates, another newly retired magistrate who was in an acting position, and another acting magistrate, all of whom passed away recently. Their passing is a great loss to our courts and the administration of justice. On Sunday, the President announced a series of new measures to cap the runaway rate of infections. These are not arbitrary measures designed to limit the freedoms of ordinary people, but very real definite caps to social movement to prevent the spread of the disease. The JCPS cluster is responsible for ensuring that everyone complies with the regulations announced by the Honorable President and the Minister of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. This will include increased police visibility, roadblocks, and patrols where applicable in streets, malls, and other areas where people ignore social distancing protocols. There will also be a random stop and search operations to ensure that the prohibition of the trade of alcohol and tobacco is not being subverted. Throughout all of this, law enforcement officials will be dependent upon the cooperation of the community members to ensure these operations are handled in the best possible spirit and with the least disruption. Our intelligence services have been working throughout the pandemic to help track and trace, providing valuable information on trends, patterns, and manifestation of COVID-19, both at home and abroad, which has helped further refine and inform government's consolidated response to combating the spread of the virus. At an international level, our intelligence services have also been conducting comparative analysis on how other nations are responding to this pandemic, especially their strategies to alleviate the social and economic impact on the well-being of their citizens, since their well-being, safety and security of our own people is paramount in our strategic response. The Department of Home Affairs continues to provide essential services to many people in their time of need. Home Affairs has registered beds, issued birth certificate, death certificate, temporary ID documents, and passports for those involved in the cross-border transportation of essential goods. Home Affairs has partnered with the Department of Basic Education to issue IDs to matriculants from 16th June 2020. Since the start of the lockdown period on 27th March 2020 until 9th July 2020, nearly 800 people visited the Home Affairs offices. More than 260,431 beds were registered. 116,759 replacement birth certificates were issued, as well as 143,604 temporary identity certificates, 130,452 death certificates, and 6,801 passports to those in exports and cargo transport. More than 136,677 smart ID cards, which were applied for before the imposition of the lockdown, have been collected. South Africa's international borders remain closed for non-essential travel in the period from 27 March 2020 for 13th July 2020. Immigration officials facilitated nearly 540,000 movements through the borders. The bulk of these were either South Africans returning home or those returning overseas to their jobs or their places of study, or reuniting with their families. A significant number of those movements represent essential transport workers, ensuring the region had access to food and medicines. Other movements included deportation, the repatriation of foreign nationals, medical evacuations for life-threatening conditions, and learners from neighboring countries who attended school in the Republic. These learners are allowed entry and exit subject to strict compliance with the protocols. This means that a number of people account for multiple movements across the border. The Department of Correctional Services is continuing to implement its COVID-19 disaster management response strategy to mitigate against the ravages of the pandemic across all of its 243 correctional centers in the country. The strategy has enabled DCS to ensure the well-being of inmates and officials. All inmates have access to quality health care in line with the provisions of the United Nations, minimum standards for the treatment of prisoners, or, as they are called, the Nelson Mandela rules. As at 13th July 2020, the Department of Correctional Service recorded a total of 3,688 confirmed COVID-19 cases, comprising of 2,203 officials and 1,485 inmates. The number of cases for inmates represent 1.02% of the inmate population. We have also recorded 2,235 recoveries, of which 1,231 cases are for inmates. Therefore, there are 239 active cases for inmates. Unfortunately, 15 inmates and 31 officials have succumbed to the COVID-19. As DCS, we profoundly appreciate the fact that we have officials dedicated to flattening the curve of COVID-19 in our correctional facilities. We will continue working towards eliminating all active cases. There is some misinformation that also needs to be corrected. Some organizations which claim to represent inmates have unfortunately resorted to exaggerating COVID-19 cases in our centers in an effort to instigate inmates. We are taking measures to address this. With regards to such planned instigations, most inmates have ignored this agenda as they are familiar with the preventative measures in all our centers. The department is also making progress in terms of placing low-risk inmates on parole as per the parole dispensation announced by the President. We have released a total of 6,128 inmates thus far. This requires a meticulous process which involves victim offender mediation and the taking of DNA samples by the South African Police Service. Inmates who are released are those who undergone the relevant rehabilitation programs aimed at correcting their offending behavior. The role of Department of Justice and Constitutional Development is also ensure the Special Investigation Unit proclamations received comply with the prescript of the SIU Act and the law. In a view of the impact of investigation of this nature, the resources spent on such investigations and the need to recover stolen assets, the initial proclamation must be unassailable. Any successful challenge against a proclamation will result in setting aside an entire investigation, which often takes years, jeopardizing recoveries and allowing wrongdoing to go unpunished. The department has received a request for proclamation to investigate COVID-19 related matters. These matters have been considered and there have been fruitful engagement with the SIU to craft a motivation for an all-encompassing investigation. We are confident that by the end of this week, a proclamation will be finalized and submitted to the President for approval. As the President has announced, the wearing of the cloth, face mask, or homemade face covering item that covers the nose and the mouth is mandatory for every person when in a public space. Wearing of a mask serves in public is the new normal, and we encourage all South Africans to adhere to this. Wearing a mask protects the wearer and those in proximity to that person from being exposed to the virus, irrespective of who is infected or symptomatic. No person will be allowed to use, operate, perform any service on any form of public transport, enter or be in the building, place or premise, including government buildings, used by the public to obtain goods and service, or be in any public open space if he or she is not wearing a closed face mask. Drivers and operators of public transport and shopkeepers will be responsible for the ensuring that anyone who boards their vehicle or who enters their premises is wearing a mask. If they fail to do so, they will be committing an offense and can be charged accordingly. Alcohol may be consumed in private, but it may not be transported, sold, or dispensed at any liquor outlet, whether bottle store, bar, shipping, and restaurants. People are allowed to drink alcohol in private, inside their homes or their yards, but not in public spaces or pavement or in their vehicles. Law enforcement officials have been instructed to act resolutely to enforce compliance with the regulations, arresting those who breach the regulations and ensuring that they are successfully prosecuted. Convictions will result in either fines or jail terms, depending on the discretion of the court. The cluster is appealing to the public not to buy any alcohol during this time, as all alcohol sales are currently illegal. If anyone is caught doing so, they will also be prosecuted. The cluster is urging communities to work with law enforcement agencies and officials to continue reporting anyone transgressing in this regulation. It is critical to remember that the sale of cigarettes, tobacco products, and e-cigarettes remains prohibited at this time and subject to the same sanctions as those found selling alcohol. The cluster has noticed an increase in social gathering before and after funerals. The night vigil before the burial and the so-called after tears following the burial remain prohibited gathering. No alcohol may be consumed at the actual funeral either. Members of the South African Police Service, South African National Defence Force, Metro Police and Traffic Police will be enforcing the 2021-00-240-00 daily curfew. Those who work at night or early in the morning will have to produce a permit of movement when they are requested to do so by law enforcement officials. The cluster once again urges the public, especially those who do not have to be out of their homes for work, to stay at home. Breaking curfew without a permit or a valid reason will be a breach of the regulation and be prosecuted as such. Public parks remain closed except for when exercising, which is subject to health protocols. No gatherings are allowed in public parks. Beaches still remain closed and gathering on beaches are prohibited. The cluster is deeply concerned that criminal elements have used the cover of coronavirus pandemic to increase their attacks on the public. This state of affairs is not acceptable. The cluster commits to ensuring that all members of the community are protected against all forms of crimes. We urge everyone to work with the police and to be vigilant and to protect themselves from the criminals. The cluster will be partnering with Community Policing Forum and Community Safety Forum to fight the surge of crime. The JCPS cluster has also noted the destruction and damage of social and public infrastructure, some of it critical in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Destroying and damaging public infrastructure is a criminal offense, and anyone found be damaging public property will be arrested and prosecuted. We condemn the recent violence against foreign nationals, especially in the trucking industry, but we fully appreciate the frustration that our people are experiencing. We need to continue to look for solutions that will address the plight of our local citizens while we make every effort to combat the violence associated with this. COVID-19 has worsened the social and economic impact on people's livelihoods, not only in our country, but across the globe. As government, we need to work harder with our regional counterparts to address these challenges. Over and above the general crime and violence that increased after the relaxation of the lockdown regulations, the JCPS cluster has also noted with concern the increase of the attacks and murder of women and children. Last week, as the Minister of Police, I instructed all members of the South African Police Service to ensure that they prioritize the fight against gender-based violence throughout the pandemic and beyond. We are urging all officers to improve their responses to crimes committed against women, children, and other vulnerable groups. In conclusion, we want to announce that some of the police stations, law enforcement centers, and home affairs offices where we deliver various services to communities have been temporarily closed for decontamination and deep cleaning. The temporary closure is one of the procedures that we have to follow if a single staff member who works in the center tests positive for COVID-19 to ensure the safety of the public. We want to assure the public, however, that contingency measures such as the provision of the mobile units and the use of nearby buildings have been put in place to ensure minimal service delivery interruptions. We apologize for the inconvenience resulting from these temporary closures. We'll do our best that service delivery is not compromised. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Cele, for the statement that covers all stakeholders in the JCPS cluster. Most appreciated indeed. We will now proceed straight to taking questions. Let's also appreciate that all our ministers that are in charge of various parts of the cluster are with us here, as articulated by Minister Cele. We have Minister Lolo here, we have Minister Lamula, Deputy Minister Makwetla, Minister Aaron Swaledi. Indeed, we have the whole team that will be able to field the questions that will come from the public. Without any further ado, are we having questions?
Not as yet, Minister.
Oh, so there are no questions. So it was very, very clear. So, by the way, whilst we want to go home, the system that we are using now, because this facility is not able to allow people to call in, so we are using a WhatsApp facility through the capabilities that we have in the office of Nongeba. So that's how we are gathering questions from the journalists. So if we can just allow them a minute or so, probably they are still digesting what we are saying. Then if within a minute or two we still don't have any indication, we will then allow all of us to go to work.
We have one question from Govin Whittle from ENCA. He's asking, the minister said that people who fail to wear masks may be charged. What is the charge or fine?
Okay. Just to indicate to the media that we will indeed, after answering this question, be going home. Minister.
I think Minister of Justice.
Or what is the fine for those not wearing masks, and what is the charge?
Good morning, everyone, colleagues and members of the media and viewers and the public at home. As the Minister of Police has already said, the charge it will be the contravention of the regulations in terms of the Disaster Management Act, and the fines are as per the guidelines of the various chief magistrates across the country, depending on the circumstances and the situation of the matter, which will be dealt with according to the guidelines that they have issued, and also on the merits of that particular matter. There could be instances where the magistrate choose an imprisonment because it's either 6 months or the option of a fine. So it is left to the magistrate to decide and choose which one is the appropriate sentence under the circumstances. Thank you.
I never walk back to you.
There's one more question. It's directed at you, Minister. It's from Tidi Madia at News 24. She's asking, did you move facilities of the press briefings to the union buildings because of a COVID-19 outbreak at the GCPS building?
Definitely. That's why that building had to be fumigated so that we prepare it for use again. But we can assure the public and the media that that period that needed the building to be prepared for removing any signs of COVID is up tomorrow. So as from tomorrow, we will be back to the GCIS Media Center. We're done.
We have more.
Oh, I thought we're done. Okay, let's hear them more.
I think they're streaming in as we're busy. Claudia from Business Day is asking, it's directed to the Minister of Justice. There were issues raised by legal practitioners on the functioning of courts during the lockdown, which included that there was incoherence in the regulation. Can Minister Lamula please indicate what is the situation currently in courts? Do you have any indication what's happening to the backlog of cases which arose as a result of the lockdown? Govern again from ENCA is asking how many SAPS and SANDF officials have contracted coronavirus and died. Can we get some breakdown as well? Can we get the same breakdown as we did can we get the same breakdown as we did as correctional services? How many police stations have closed, and how has this affected the police or army operations? Then Luyolo from the Business Day is asking, what process will law enforcement officials follow to monitor compliance with regulations in the taxi industry regarding the allowed capacity, open windows, and use of masks? And one last question from TD again. What are the trends that intelligence picked up, this is directed to the Minister of State Security, picked up that government needed to consider in its response? Thank you, Minister.
So that was the last one.
Yes.
Maybe can we indicate that our intelligence sources assist the various frontline departments, including the Department of Defense and Military Veterans, including the Department of Police, including the Department, by the way, of Home Affairs, all of us. So they then work in the background to assist all those with whatever trends that they are picking up, so that indeed all these departments are able to act well informed. Can we then have a functioning of the courts and other related matters that have been raised? Minister Lamula.
Thank you very much again. We have issued directives with regards to the functioning of the courts that enables the courts to deal with the various issues that must still be on the roll. With criminal matters, there's a long list in terms of the directions at this level 3. I'll just read a few, but I think because the question is also us from practitioners, I think they are also aware of the directions which is published in the Government Gazette of what the courts are able to deal with. And in addition to that, the Chief Justice and the various JPs across the country, they've also issued directives in terms of issues related to the administration and the handling of matters. There have indeed been complaints with regard to the infirmity of the various directives from that level, which there is an engagement between the department and the various role players or stakeholders from the judiciary, from the NPA, and the profession to resolve some of the teething challenges that are there. And other challenges also relates to connectivity and the enabling of the various networks to function. So the courts can still handle in criminal matters first court appearances, including child justice and preliminary inquiries, postponements of hearings, bail applications, proceedings under Section 363A of the Criminal Procedure Act, corruption, sexual offenses, gender-based violence, femicide, serious and violent crime, murder, violations and of COVID-19 regulations, cases where a child is an accused or witness or victim, cases where accused person are in detention, single witness trial. So there are various, and these are tabulated in the directions which are published in the Government Gazette. With regards to civil trials, I could also just mention a few. Civil matters dealt with online, telephonically, or in writing, urgent motion applications, urgent civil trials, including COVID-19 related cases, alternative dispute resolutions mechanisms, taxations. Also, the list is very long, which is also published in the directives, which are published in the Government Gazette. Thank you.
Minister, a question was asked on how many members of SAPS are infected or have passed on, and how many police stations have been closed on account of COVID-19. Minister.
Thanks very much. Maybe it's an opportune time to pass condolences to the Major General Parasi, Deputy Provincial Commissioner of Policing in Gauteng, that he lost his life about a week ago, who has been the Deputy Commissioner of Gauteng. Maybe starting with the taxis. Implementation is easy. You find us on the road. Taxis, they're all on the road, and they need to keep the law on the road. I'm sure you have seen that there is 100% on the local tax, but with the strict protocols. Those protocols, everybody will have to have a mask, from the driver to all passengers. I'm told that one protocol is that there will be windows a little bit ajar. I heard somebody talking about the ice outside that is cold. Well, we were not told as the police what to do if it is cold, except that the windows must be open. So we'll keep on that one. There'll have to be sanitizers in the taxis. Is one protocol that will have to be kept there. But the longer distances is 70%. Now, it has been defined as 200 and no more. If you drive 201 and you are in full capacity, you are breaking the law and the regulations of having 70% on the long distance. So 201, that becomes a long distance. So police will be putting a proper direction what happens to you when you have broken that particular law. And surely, because it's a part of your license to have a long distance or short distance, people will know where 200 ends. Many provinces, maybe with the exception of Gauteng, Chair, if I'm not mistaken, many provinces, you will be driving more than 200 kilometers to be out of those provinces. That includes, by the way, the interprovincial. That is not allowed. That will have to have permits for the people that they pass provinces. And so in all national roads and all gates that link provinces will be the law enforcement in making sure that people don't break the law. We hope you are not going to give us the job of arresting people that are not complying. So at this time, we really ask you not to give us the job. But if you want to give us the job, we don't have a problem. We'll take the job of dealing with those matters. So, but we have spoken with the transport people. Personally, I have spoken with the leadership there, and the leadership agrees that we need to work together rather than really forcing. COVID-19 has been also costly when it comes to the South African Police Service members. Up to this point, we have 7,021 of them confirmed, but we are glad to say 2,021 recoveries have happened, though 4,949 members are still in isolation, and 150 of them are hospitalized. We have 53 fatalities, the death up to this point. The most problematic province for us remains the Western Cape, then Gauteng, Eastern Cape, and KZN. What is funny to add on that one, Program Director, is that these provinces are also provinces that are giving us problem when it comes to crime, and we have discovered that the hotspots for COVID-19 are also hotspots for crime. So the law enforcement officers and agencies will be working harder to deal with those matters on that particular area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Cele. I hope those were the last questions. We are taking the last round now. Yes.
Okay, we have 7 remaining questions.
Let's take the 5.
All right.
Then we end this questioning and answer session. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Minister. Tula Sizwe from ENCA is asking, are there any measures being taken to help protect bottle stores and liquor establishments, as there seems to be a trend of these being burglared during prohibition of alcohol sales? A question directed to the Deputy Minister of Defense from TD from News 24. Why are military courses, including refresher and promotional courses, still running at full capacity? Isn't that risky? Amanda Watson from the Citizen to the Minister of Police. Is there an admission of guilt fine for not wearing a mask, and if so, how much? And will this reflect as a criminal record against the person? Bonga Dlulane from ENWN is asking the Minister of Police. Government said that gender-based violence is another pandemic. Structurally, is there a plan to change the police so that it can attend to this more effectively? Because police have been criticized for lacking skills to assist survivors adequately. And the 5th and last question is from Vickers from Nadver Firendwandach. It's directed to the Minister of Police. How many cases have members of the public opened against police officers since the beginning of the lockdown? And what is the nature of these cases? For instance, is it assault, unlawful arrests, etc.? Thank you, Minister.
Let's just take the 2 and conclude.
All right.
We are no longer taking any questions after this.
Okay. Govan again from ENCA is asking the Minister of Police to clarify if there have been any arrests of long-distance taxis that have been that have tried to cross provincial borders without permits in the last month. And the last question is from Jeanette from News 24, also directed to the Minister of Police. South Africa implemented some travel restrictions on our borders to prevent the spread of COVID-19. However, according to the assessment by Interpol, this has not been sufficient. The land route from Horn of Africa to South Africa continues to show signs of activity, where the evasion of border control has had some cases taken a fatal toll on the lives of migrants. Can Minister Cele confirm what Interpol is saying? Have the border restrictions been sufficient? How many people have entered the country illegally?
I'm not sure whether this border question, whether it should be answered by Minister Cele or Minister of Borders and Home Affairs. But there's linkages between. Interpol is a small portion. The bigger portion is our borders compromised in our country. Maybe let's start there, Minister Mswareti. If you can just ask, because there is this allegation that people have come in from the Horn using whatever borders. Are you aware? Let's start with you. Then when the Minister of Police comes, he can add on the Interpol part, together with other questions that are directed to him. Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you very much. I'm not aware of the Interpol study because it was not brought to our attention. But ever since the 27th of March 2020 up to the 13th of July, that's up to 2 days ago, immigration officials facilitated nearly 540,000 movements through our borders. Naturally, those who come illegally, we can't know. Because if we knew the people who come to our country illegally, we'll be able to arrest them. So nobody knows the number of people who could have crossed the borders illegally, but we know the number of those we have processed. Thank you very much.
The Deputy Minister Magwetla, there is this question about military causes that are continuing. So if you can just come and shed some light here. Because the TVs will be unable to project you from there. If you can come in, Deputy.
Thank you very much for the question. The matter of training centers within the South African National Defence Force was indeed discussed when the lockdown was imposed. And the view of the command was that because in their very nature, these centers are isolated communities, we will allow the programs to continue. But what will happen is that those who are moving in and out of the centers, for an example, the instructors themselves or those who are providing logistic supplies, there must be strict protocols to monitor the observance of all the measures that are intended to combat infections. The infections within the Defence Force as a whole are monitored on a daily basis. They are part of the situation report, and it was agreed that as the situation unfolds, we'll monitor it and act accordingly. Thank you very much.
Minister of Justice on admissions.
Thank you. On the part of the admission of guilty fines, or whether if you are convicted with this, does it carry a criminal record? I will deal with it on the other aspects that relates to us, and I will leave the part of the kind of another part which the police do sometimes administer to the Minister of Police. From our side, if this does happen in the courts through the prosecutors, or it happens through a person being found guilty in the courts, it does carry with it a criminal record. You will get a criminal record, even if you are not sentenced to imprisonment. It's only a fine, even if the magistrate decide that the offense and the sentence must carry on its own a fine. It will be a criminal record. And I must state, because I can hear from the question that the person is asking about that, this of wearing of a mask in public. And I think Minister Tere did clarify. On many interviews, I've also clarified, including in the press conference we had with Minister Nkosazana, including the President. The responsibility is on the compliance officers, the taxi driver or taxi owner or operator, or a person who is running a retail shop, or a government building, or anyone who is in control of a building or of any facility where people can gather. That is the person whom the obligation and the responsibility to ensure that no one comes into that building without a mask is the one that will be prosecuted. It is not like there will be massive prosecutions of people in the public places, that a general person in the public. And I think that is a confusion that is out there, which we must clarify. But we must state that this issue of criminalizing in the general public, it remains on the agenda. There is an assessment, and if we are convinced that there is still non-compliance, that is the next league that the government will take to then criminalize altogether the non-wearing of masks in public. And I must state that from the beginning, you will remember that the regulations are saying from the beginning when we started with the Disaster Management Act, is that it was to encourage members of the public to wear a mask, because government did not want from the onset to criminalize. And now we are now going to the second stage, where we are putting the responsibility and the obligation and the duty on the compliance officers. The third stage, if there is still non-compliance, will be the one of the general public. Thank you very much.
The remaining questions are yours. Including protection of bottle stores.
I hope Utula Sizwe doesn't own one. Now I want to start at the Interpol question. Interpol is forever active, COVID or no COVID. You see that by results. We have been having very good results at the borders. I'm sure you have seen a huge arrest of the underground movement of Upondulga Pejan, the Rhino. Police have made a serious breakthrough. I think a day before yesterday, we made a big breakthrough on the illegal crossing of alcohol from Mozambique to South Africa. It was we have made a big breakthrough on the crossing of illegal cigarettes from the neighboring countries coming down there. So those cross-border crimes, it will be a collaboration, especially between the Interpol and our law enforcement and the neighboring countries. So I think we have been doing pretty well on that, and that will continue. But other ordinary cross-border issues, home affairs, will really look at that. There was a question of how many people that have opened the cases. That will fall under IPIT. That will fall under IPIT. Fortunately, Chairperson, that question will come to an end now. Today, the Portfolio Committee has confirmed the new IPIT head in the Republic of South Africa. We hope we'll just get on the tune. 685 cases under lockdown. 685 cases were opened against the law enforcement officers. Mostly that will be the police and the Metro Police, because IPIT also looks after the police and the Metro. Doesn't look after the South African National Defence Force. That will be the other people. So out of that, it's only, if I'm not mistaken, 227 that have been investigated and finalized out of those cases. Some of them are under investigation. Yes, the biggest number, that will be the assault and the discharge of the firearm in public. Let me explain a little bit this discharge of the firearm in public, because people, they think that it's criminal to do so. No. For instance, if there is a protest and there are rubber bullets that are shot, that is regarded as a discharge of the firearm in public. So maybe that's why those numbers will be high, because there are protests, there will be rubber bullets, shots, and all that kind of thing. So as I've said, that there are 685 of them, 247, if not mistaken, 27, they've been investigated, and then the rest of them are being investigated. Have we arrested the long distance? Well, it has been clarified exactly with the previous announcement of the President. The interprovincial, yes, we have arrested people, though one doesn't have numbers, but the long distance specifically has been said that it can't be more than 70% load, and the long distance and short distance have been clearly clarified, that 200 and no more than that. Police will, I'm sure, will be able, in many, especially main arteries, main roads, will be able to be where the 200 ends. To remind you that once it's 201, once you are 201 kilometers, then you are not supposed to be 100%, so you are breaking the law. That's why we are calling that they'll have to, drivers and the owners will have to know their distances. That 200 ends here, because if they don't know their distances, we shall know our distances as the police, so that we are synergized there. We don't clash over simple things like those. Alcohol and bottle stores. Indeed, one bottle store has been broken in Western Cape a day after the announcement. But there is a funny situation there, that somebody breaks the bottle store at 4 a.m. That bottle store, we have made patrols around the shops and the malls where there are bottle stores. That one, we were there until 4, but that person was able to break off the cameras of that, and he or she had a very good choice of stealing. I think any criminal will just get and grab around. He only went to the expensive stuff. He swept only, I'm told, whiskey shelves and cognac. Whiskey and cognac. Could be somebody that knows very well where the stuff is kept. We are investigating that, will come back. But we don't have specific guarding of these areas at the present moment, but we are patrolling and working very closely with the private security companies. I'm sure you have heard that the community safety forums, the community and the neighborhood watch will be working together on these matters. So yes, we are looking after that. So, but we are also making some deliberations with the owners of some other things, measures we want to take. I'm not going to say those measures now because somebody might be ahead of us as we're dealing with those matters. Taking an opportunity to emphasize that we have seen the increase of these after tears. Please don't make us arrest people at the funerals. Is a painful thing to do. But if you go to funerals and you begin to drink there, the organizers and the family will have to really take care that that doesn't happen. Parties are not allowed, gathering are not allowed. So you cannot take your alcohol and go next door. Cele can't take it next door to Mthembu and we drink together. Mthembu will drink kwaMthembu. Cele will drink kwaCele. Once you come together, there's a gathering and a sock bob, if that is the case. As we have said, if you drink on the car on the road, that's public. If you really want to drink on the car, park it in the garage and get in the car in the garage, you can drink there. But anywhere else, in the pavement and there, you cannot go and drink there. That is public. You end inside your yard, not beyond that. So we really want to make that call, that the job of the police is very defined in the Constitution what to do, will be doing that. But maybe taking from the judge that gave instruction under Kosameta to the Minister of Defense and the Minister of Police, we have had that joint operational standards that our members will be forever reminded. But for now, we are very fine. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Yes, that's a big one. Thanks very much. Minister Mthembu, the gender-based violence, as the President has put it, that is a second disease, it's the second pandemic that all of us we must fight with all the energy we have. One was looking already at the crime stats. Immediately on the first day when the alcohol was opened, the murder rate moved from 20 to 40. The second day after that, it moved to 55. First day with this announcement, 19 people died, and last night 15. We haven't seen those figures for a very long time. We were 36 up to 50. We haven't seen 15 since the alcohol has banned already. But that also goes with the gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is always there. But it took a serious turn from the 1st of June after the unbanning of alcohol. 29 women were killed immediately. There have been a gender-based violence all the time, but 29 women were killed as you have seen with Pule, as you've seen with Pendukwayo, and the Mfaba from Dobsonville and all that. So there is a strong belief that the violence increases when there is a lot of availability of alcohol. Remember, the president has instructed the cluster to find the resources around themselves to improve the situation. Yes, as the South African police, for instance, with the December 2019 output of the police that were 5,000, we have taken 300 of them for special training for the gender-based violence units. We have, there is that training that is going on, there are 300 of them. But also, we have taken more from the existing members who are more than 2,000 to retrain them. We have increased, and we are further increasing the number. We've got 185 units of the gender-based violence cases in the Republic of South Africa. Actually, there are 195 because 10 of them are specializing on things like serial killers and all that. They're specializing all over the country. But specifically on the clusters, there are 185. But we're making a movement to say they should be at every police station, because it's true. There will be members of the South African police that they don't take this issue very serious. So we are training to say this, whatever station should be a specialized issue, so that there should be no sending back of the people. But that's a call we have made as the South African police, together with the National Commissioners, to say no member of the South African police should send back any person who's coming to report the abuse or the intimidation or the assault by the member of the family. Nobody should tell a woman, a child, to go back and negotiate. That is not our job at the South African Police Service members, to negotiate. You arrest those people. But one thing that we have emphasized is that these court interdicts must be taken serious by the members of the South African Police. If people come with an interdict, you need to act on that. Don't send those people. Yes, we're trying to put a lot of emphasis, but also we're working together with the prosecutors to make sure that these cases are taken serious, less bails and all that. But I must say, congratulations to the South African Police Service members that all these cases that happened from the 1st of June, almost everybody has been arrested there, including the young child that was killed, found in Soweto, including an 11-year-old that was murdered by a 17-year-old in KZN, including the mother that killed her children. All those people have been arrested. We believe that we'll get time and keep them in for a very long time. So it remains serious, the gender-based violence issue, and we will make sure that as a South African police, we make our effort and we put our shoulder on the wheel to be able to resolve this sketch. Thanks very much.
Colleagues, thank you very much, Minister Tswaledi, Minister Cele, Minister Dlodlo, Deputy Minister Makwetla. Thank you very much. It's important for government to, on a continuous basis, to keep South Africa informed of what we're doing to combat the spread of the disease in all our clusters and in all our structures of government. Today we have just had the JCPS cluster detailing how we are dealing with this matter. Yesterday we had the cluster, social cluster, and also we have had the governance cluster that has outlined the regulations after the address to the nation by the President. Tomorrow, we will have the economic cluster also speaking to how are we implementing the directives that have come from our President. We would like to thank you, colleagues, and thank you very much. But more importantly, we would like to thank the viewers at home for giving us an opportunity to say what it is that we're doing to save lives as the government of the Republic. We would not have been able to reach you there at home if we didn't have these colleagues who are assisting us to reach you, our colleagues in SABC, our colleagues in ENCA, and our colleagues in various radio stations and the various community radio stations. We really appreciate that all of us are being able to be transmitted to all houses because of you, various broadcasters of our country and community radio stations in our country. With that said, thank you very much. This broadcasting session is now ended. Thank you very much.